Welcome back again. I mean, lots of news in the world of MMA. I mean, just coming right at us today and yesterday. I'm sure we'll be referencing quite a bit of that. Especially since it's next week, UFC 294. Can't fucking wait for that. I mean, oh, wow. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, you did. I mean, even yesterday, I'll admit, yesterday when I was watching the Paulo Costa on the MMA Hour, I was like, I see what he's trying to do because even Ariel kind of briefly made a prediction there that it's like I think he's trying to get ahead of it. Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm getting worried now. Now I'm getting worried. And yeah, wow. I mean, sucks. But I will say, I don't even fucking care. I truly don't. Because you know what? I actually think not only did we get one better matchup in the main event, because I think that's actually even more interesting now. I love Charles Oliveira, but you got to admit, the rematch, this is what we wanted. This is what we wanted to see, maybe UFC 300. This is what we wanted. So I'm okay with that. But then not only that, I'm actually more intrigued by Usman and um, Chimaev. That's way more interesting to me. I mean, holy shit. Especially since now we find out that Dana White even actually confirms now that's going to be the next title shot against Strickland. I mean, which we figured anyway. I mean, I've said that a bunch too. I think you said it too. I mean, it seemed. Oh, that's the Stripes getting that shit out of there. What was I gonna say? Yeah, we knew that anyway. Whoever won, Costa or Chimaev, was gonna get the title shot anyway. But now it's like, yeah, I mean, now it's like, okay, now we're guaranteed the title shot. It seems like a fucking slam dunk of a good fight, no matter what. I mean, no matter how you swing that one. I mean, how is Usman Chimaev gonna be bad? I mean, yeah, this is. I I already said, I mean, I've been saying it for weeks now. I thought this was card of the year. Now I think we're like genuinely, I mean, again, knock on wood here. I don't want to jinx anything, but like I think we're guaranteed like this really actually should be like the card of the year. And I went through it. I went through the card yesterday because of what you said last week. I was like, are there a bunch of wrestlers on here? Because I was kind of thinking that too. But then I went through the card and I was like, you know what? Fuck what I said last week. Seriously, if you look at the card, it really is like top to bottom unreal. It really is. I mean, we'll get into that. You know what? Fuck that. No. I'm going into the card right now because I'm obviously not going to talk about the whole card, but just previewing the matchups here of how insanely good this really does look top to bottom. I mean, you'll see what I mean right away. Nathaniel Wood, Muhammad Naimov. That's banger. Nathaniel Wood never in a boring fight. Naimov also entertaining. Javid Basharat can't be in a boring fight. But the Basharat brothers are insanely good. So that matchup, obviously amazing. We're 2 for 2 already. Anshul Jubilee, Mike Breeden. They're going to give Anshul Jubilee the best chance he can to get a knockout. So we're probably going to see the first insane knockout by an Indian fighter in the UFC. So I know that's going to be good. Maybe a lot of more casual people don't necessarily know about that one. Mohamed Yahya, Trevor Peak. I mean, Trevor Peak, that's literally slam dunk, put the fight of the night in there. I mean, like, Trevor Peak, I mean, maybe not fight of the night on this card, but Trevor Peak is like guaranteed electricity. Unreal. That's obviously going to be amazing. Then we've got the guy that I was talking about, Sharabutin Magomedov. I mean, if you've got two different colored eyes and you look like that, like ginger hair, and you look like you're gonna kill somebody. I mean, like, how is that gonna be boring? This guy's a fucking maniac. If you look at his record, no joke, 11-0, mostly all knockouts in first and second rounds, modified MMA rules. This guy's fighting in random promotions, doing everything. people that do that are genuinely like certified out of their fucking minds, and you want to see those people fight. So do you see what I mean? Already, every single one of those matchups, straight up, I want to see that. I want to see every single one of those. Not boring at all. Never, and there's no chance that any of those are going to be boring. I refuse to believe that any of those could possibly be boring. Then I'll admit, you know, go down a little bit. There's two fights in a row that are kind of like meh. You know, you got Jinyu Fry, but you got Victoria Dudakova on the other side, and I was honestly pretty impressed by her too. So even there, I want to see Dudakova again. I thought she was really good. That looks like a good fight. Then you got Cedriquez Dumas, Abu Azaitar. Not gonna lie, that's kind of the only fight on the card where it's like, eh, you know, I don't know about that one. We'll see. But Abu Azaitar, you know, I mean, Cedriquez Duma, not very good. We could get a crazy finish in that one. You never know. And then we come back to the insane fights again. Next up, Tim Elliott, Mohamed Mokayev. Neither one of those guys ever in a boring fight. So you know that's going to be insane. Then from there, Ikram Aliskerov, Warley Alves. That's one of those ones with the grappling where maybe we get a boring one. That's plausible in that one. But still, there's a good chance that we could see something in there good too, because Warley Alves is kind of insane, and Aliskerov is really fucking good. So even there, I still think there's pretty good potential. And then for the rest of the card, it's just straight up insanity. You've got Saeed Nurmagomedov, Muin Gafarov. That's going to be a great fucking fight. Magomed Ankalaev, Johnny Walker. There's no way that that's going to be a bad fight. Johnny Walker's never been in a boring fight, and is actually no. I take that back. I was going to say Johnny Walker's never been in a boring fight. Yes, he has. That Tiago, I think it was Tiago Santos. That was straight up trash, and nobody wants to see that. But with Ankalaev, Johnny Walker, and this new version of Johnny Walker, I think again guaranteed fireworks. That's going to be a good one. And then you finish the night, of course, Chimaev, Usman, Volkanovski, Makhachev. Come on. I mean, what matchup in there that I said doesn't automatically sound like that's going to be an insane fight? Except for, like I said, you're towing the line with, like, you know, Abu Azaitar, Cedriquez Duma, maybe Jinyu Fry and Victoria Dudakova, but I still think Dudakova has a very, very good chance of making that very exciting for us. And then maybe Aliskerov Alves, like I said, but I still think that one's going to be a banger too. So, I mean, really, you know, out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, what is it like? Probably 12, 13 fights. 13 fights, one, maybe two of them seem like a bit iffy. But the other 10 or 11, I mean, pure insanity. I cannot wait for that card. I don't even know how you could beat that card. I really don't know how you could beat that unless there's like some crazy shit that goes on in a different card from, you know, in like the John Jones card or something like that. But I mean, my God, like that's crazy that we're getting a card like that. And the fact that it is getting better. I thought it was insane last week. Now we're getting all these new matchups and it's just getting better. I can't believe it. But yes, enough about UFC 294. I'll quickly say the USADA thing. You know what's interesting about that? Today, literally today, or maybe it was yesterday, Connor says that he's in the pool. Now, guess what? USADA isn't involved starting January. So guess what? Doesn't fucking matter. They can do that fight whenever they want now. So Connor, I mean, we could definitely see UFC 300. We could see UFC 299, McGregor, Chandler. I mean, now USADA doesn't matter. USADA doesn't matter. I actually kind of like that. They kind of seem to be getting in the way most of the time, to be fair. But I don't know what that exactly means. I mean, I guess that means I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't think any of us really know what that means because none of us are really part of that side of things. So I mean, I'm sure they're gonna have something. I could even see them doing an in-house version of that because they got so Remember why they started getting mad at USADA, by the way. It was because they were doing things to, like, with what they did with Volkanovski, where they woke him up at like fucking 3:30 in the morning. He was, trying to sleep, taking melatonin, trying to sleep and all that. And then he gets waked up at 3:30 for a random call on weigh-in day. It's like, dude, like you could have literally stolen the title from Volkanovski just because you woke him up at 3:30. Like, get the fuck out of here. And they were doing that to a bunch of people like that. They were just waking them up at 5 a.m., doing dumb shit like that. You can't do that in fighting. And Dana White's talked about that quite a bit. And I mean, like, Dana White said some crazy shit in the past year or two, but I mean, like, that really is one thing where it's like, I don't know how you could deny the fact that, yeah, USADA doing stuff like that that's not okay. That's not okay. And yeah, the fact that they tested Yuri, I think it was like twice as much as everybody else. Was it last year or the year before? They tested everybody else like maximum like 30 times. That was like the number two person. And then they tested Yuri like, was it like 64 or 60 something? It's like, bruh, what are we doing here? Like, that's crazy. And I found that they did say why they were doing it, by the way. And it's because you have to let USADA know where you're going ahead of time. And Yuri was one of those guys that didn't do that. He didn't let them know where he was going. So then they have to do a random test because that's just the way the rules work out. So apparently if he would have let them know where he was going all the time, that wouldn't have happened as much, but apparently that's why. That's their excuse. I don't know if I fully entertain that idea, but that's their excuse. But anyway, I'm interested to see what's going to happen with that. Hopefully less of the stories that we hear about all these things. And I mean, we've had some cancellations too because of them too, but I mean, I guess that's really more the fault of the athlete for not knowing or not making sure that they're not, not making sure that they're clean, I guess, in time. But still, I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's always interesting seeing shifts behind the scenes because you never really think about those things and how they're going to affect everything. Anyway, that's enough of that. Now we will talk about another rough card for us. But by the way, still made profit on Instagram. I want to make that very clear. 2 out of the 3 cards that we've done on Instagram, we have made money. So we did make money on Instagram with those picks, the sniper pick, the underdog or top dog, and the parlays. We did make money there, just like we did a couple weeks ago. It's just that middle week when Tamiris Vidal lost. That's the only time that we have lost money so far on Instagram. But yeah, in terms of what I said last week, like, making the predictions and all that, that was a little bit of a struggle. Still not one of our worst ones, but definitely not. We did not break even on this one, sadly, but only a slight loss. We'll get into that right now. Only because of the surprising losses, though, I will say there were some truly shocking results on this last card. I mean, we'll throw the main event aside. That was baffling. I sat there with my mouth open for like a solid 10 seconds. It was like, what in the fuck was that? But all throughout the rest of the card, it was like, what is happening? Over and over, I was like, this is very strange to watch. This many underdog. It was like, was it 5 out of the 6 first fights were underdogs, something like that. It was weird to see, and that really started in this first fight. Montana De La Rosa and JJ Aldrich. I even said it last week. I didn't really think that Aldrich had much of a chance. I mean, De La Rosa looked really good in her last like 4 fights. She looked decent. Always really good at grappling. And Aldrich kind of struggles with that kind of stuff and fought like less than a month ago and looked horrible in that fight. So it was like, well, this looks like a slam dunk for us, like Montana De La Rosa all day. And my God, did that not happen at all? That was the exact opposite of what happened here. Montana never really got the grappling going at all. Excuse me, what the fuck? What's happening with me? Montana never really got the grappling going. Landed a couple of strikes, never anything big. Looking at my notes here because I did take notes this time. Thank you for remembering. I remembered this time. JJ just landed bigger, just barely stealing the rounds. It wasn't even a convincing domination from Aldrich. It was just like De La Rosa's not really doing a whole lot. So that was a weird one. And our picks, of course, were Montana by decision. That was at plus 130. And I thought that there was a chance that she could have gotten a submission win. So I did put an under down, the under 2.5 at plus 275. So if that would have gone in, I mean, that would have been fantastic. But I mean, there was never a chance that either one of those was going to go in. I mean, Montana never really got anything going, so that was never even close, and there was definitely never anything close to a finish. I mean, that was not a great fight to watch. So, yeah, brutal. 0-2 start to start the night. Not a great way to open up. Then we, of course, we had. Oh, actually, that's the wrong order here. Then we had Aorichi Lang, Johnny Munoz Jr. Not entirely surprised by this one, which is why I was considering taking Aorichi Lang as the dog, but when I got to the odds, what happened was they were actually dead even. I was pretty shocked to see that, not gonna lie, because Munoz was a fairly big favorite. I think last week when we were talking, he was like minus 150-ish, maybe minus 140. He was definitely the favorite. I remember saying that. So I thought, well, now I'm getting good value. They're even. They were both minus 110 when I saw it, when I saw the odds myself when I was doing the bets. So I just went, you know what? If I think Munoz has a better chance of winning and they're even odds, I have to go with Munoz at that point, especially since he was the favorite. You're getting better value that way. So I stand by the pick that I made in doing that because they were the exact same odds. But if Aorichi Lang would have been plus money, I would have taken him. That's the problem. So it's kind of like, I don't even think that I necessarily made a bad pick. I think the odds just kind of shifted to the point where I just statistically kind of had no choice. I had to really go with Munoz because statistically he just looked like, and mathematically, just the better choice to make. But yeah, TSN not giving you the prelims. Yeah, that is exactly why you gotta get Fight Pass, because they rob you of these moments and these fights, especially recently, because I don't know if you've noticed, but they've actually been putting the best fights of the night, some of them, in the first or the second matchups of the night. And they've been doing that on purpose. I know they are, because I know exactly what they're trying to do. They want people to get in early, watch the first fight of the night, and then stay all night. But that also means that us in Canada, we can't watch the first 2 or 3 fights. I haven't been able to watch. They haven't shown the first few prelims for me with the channels that I get for like, I don't remember a card in the last like year or two that's had all of the fights on. Genuinely, I cannot remember a single card where that happened. I've always had to use Fight Pass for the first couple fights. It is bad. It is horrible. I hate TSN and all the shit that they do with that. It is very annoying. And guess what's on, by the way, for people who don't know, like what's on, instead of the first couple of the first prelims? Either replays, like Sports Center top tens, so nothing related to anything live at all, or I think they usually have maybe like a NASCAR thing sometimes. Sometimes there's like UFC countdown, so they're playing old UFC fights if it's a pay-per-view. And it's like, bruh, like let's watch the real fights that are actually happening now, maybe. Tennis. I was actually going to mention tennis too, but yeah, that's another one that's usually on. It's like, what is happening? Like, yeah, sure, have tennis on, but there's 3 other channel. Like TSN has, what is it, 5 or 6 channels? Maybe, I don't know, put them on one of the channels, not 4 out of the 5. Like, can we not split things up a little bit better? I don't know. Anyway, Getting back to the card, like I said, they were even money, so I had to go with Munoz minus 110. He ended up losing. Again, I wasn't hugely surprised by that. That's why I didn't have him in the parlays, because I actually, did I not even say that? I think I actually said this last week. I said this about Munoz. I said he was very one-dimensional, and that he was going to get exposed eventually. I just didn't think it was going to be this time, to be fair. I thought he was going to be able to kind of get through Aorichi Lang, and then the next matchup was going to kind of expose him as this specialist. He got exposed this time. So we sadly we've lost that advantage in the bets in the future. Because it would have been nice for him to, get the win this time, and then we would have known ahead of time, thanks to, you know, me noticing when there's a a jujitsu specialist hiding himself. But yeah, he was already exposed. The secret's out. Tough luck. But yeah. And I even wrote it here. It was exactly what I said with Munoz being a specialist. I just didn't think this was going to be the guy to expose it. Yeah. Decent performance for Aorichi Lang. I definitely stand by that. I mean, he looked good. It was just like, when you're fighting a specialist like that, it makes sense. That's all I got to say. Because if he's fighting somebody else that's well-rounded, he's definitely losing that fight. He's definitely losing that fight. I feel bad though, because I actually used to be pretty high on Aorichi Lang, but I don't know. He seems to be one of those kind of guys that's like, he's got the physical talent, but he just can't seem to get in there and put it together in the fight. It's sad to see. It really sucks to see, because you can tell he's really good. Yeah, so that was that one. Oh yeah, right. So obviously minus 110 Munoz, that didn't cash in. I also went with the under, thinking that, okay, if Aorichi Lang does win, he's probably going to be a KO. Also Munoz, outside chance of a submission. I mean, I don't remember it getting too close. I didn't write it down like, oh, it was close to being finished. I don't remember anything that was noticeable like that. But to be fair, I mean, these early fights, actually, to be honest, the whole card was kind of like, it was not a good card. I'm not going to lie. It was, and we knew that going into it, to be fair. This was not a card that was going to be, the most entertaining card. And that definitely held up. What was I going to say? I was actually going to say something now I can't remember. But we're ramping up this week. Anyway, moving on. What was the next fight here? Again, I had them all out of order here. Demopoulos and Murata. Fuck. Yeah, this is where you were saying it was a robbery. Yeah. Yeah. Brutal. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I was also watching Bellator 300 at the same time, so I'm not going to lie. When I was writing some of the notes, I probably missed a couple of things here and there where it was like, oh, I might have missed a couple moments in the UFC ones because I was watching Bellator, which, by the way, was definitely more exciting than the UFC one. It was for sure. Like there wasn't much of a comparison. It was definitely more fun to watch that. Yeah, especially later in the card, because after the UFC card was done, then it was I think it was about where like the main card ish was starting in Bellator 300. So then it was like, there was a couple fights, and then it was like Cyborg, and then of course you got Usman Nurmagomedov in the main event. So it was like, yeah, this is way better than watching the UFC card. That card was definitely one of the worst ones of the year. That's a tough question. Do I want to make posts for other promotions? Yes. Do I have time to make all the picks reasonably early enough to do that? Seemingly no. And I feel bad about that, because it's like it's really weird, honestly, what's happening to me lately, because it's like, and I'm not even, I mean, like, obviously you haven't, I mean, it's not like you've known me for the last like year or more, But it's like, this really is weird for me to not be so far ahead of the game. No joke. I used to make picks for every single promotion that was on. And I mean every single one. I would go Tapology and I would just literally go on and it would have next events and I would do all of them. I would do like the cards with like 3 fights with boxing, like there's only amateur fights. I would do all of those and I would do all of them. And then I kind of switched to just doing all the major ones. So I would do, and I did that for months. Like where I was doing, Octagon, Aries, KSW, Bellator, PFL. There were some, RCF. What are some other like super obscure ones? Wow MMA, Fame MMA, and then it was kind of like, I don't know. My scheduling, like just the way that I've been able to kind of maintain doing so many things at once, I haven't been able to do it recently the last couple of months, and I don't really know why. I think it's because my sleeping is a little out of whack. I'm not really sure. And yeah, I am focused for sure more so on my game now. But I was able to do both of them quite well before, and I was actually, you can check, I was posting every week. And not only was I posting every week, I was posting any card. I was posting all the Canadian cards, right? So I was doing like Unified MMA, BFL, doing the bonuses for those, KO of the night, sub of the night, blah, 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 on and on and on. And I was doing all of that. And it wasn't even a problem. I was still maintaining everything else. But now I don't know. I just haven't been able to mix it like that. I don't know. It is, like I said, and I always had everything ready. I always had all my everything ready way ahead of time. I was always good about that. And now it's like, bruh, like I can't even get you the picks on time sometimes. And it's like, what the fuck am I doing? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's been going on with me the last couple months. I swear I'm really not normally like this at all. It's really weird for me, actually. I mean, and that's the reason why I was able to get like a degree and also be like a professional athlete at the same time and also do work at the same time and also do I was doing music at the time. I've always done a lot of stuff at the same time and always been able to get everything done on time and early, actually. And now it's like I just can't seem to do it. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just like super, super intently focused on the game. Maybe it's the sleeping because I've been going to sleep at like fucking, like, no joke, like 4 or 5 a.m. I don't know. It could be a bunch of things. I don't really know. It is weird for me though. Like I said, I swear I'm really not normally this absent-minded, I would say. I'm usually way on top of everything. So yeah, it's weird for me. But also we have to remember now with Bellator specifically, that actually genuinely could have been the last Bellator event. They mentioned 301, and then we found out, if you watched on the MMA Hour, they said they actually don't even know if that's happening because they don't know who's paying for it. They do not know if 301 is happening or not. So I don't know. I do have high expectations for myself. I always have. But again, I've always been able to keep that pace for years. I've never been able to not keep that pace. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've always had high expectations for myself, but I've also always been able to back that up. And now I haven't been able to, which is weird for me. But anyway, now back to the card. Oh, Demopolis Murata. Yeah, that was the robbery for sure. There's no doubt about that. That was like straight up like, what the fuck was that? Especially the fact that it was unanimous too. It was like, what? Like, did I miss something? Did I just watch the wrong fight? Like, what are they looking at? Bizarre. Absolutely. I really do not know what they were looking at. I really don't know. And I wrote down here Demopoulos doing similar things to Munoz, which she was, by the way. She was kind of acting like a jujitsu specialist. She was like, kind of pulling guard, kind of just trying to get things going. not even kind of pulling guard. I think at one point she literally like bear hugged her and like pulled her on top of her. I think that happened. So yeah, I mean, it was just like, okay, so you're fighting like a jujitsu specialist. This is not going well. Murata on top for how many minutes out of the 15? Like most of the fight. Did pretty well on the feet too, I think. So yeah, that was weird. That was really fucking weird. I don't even know what to say about it. Yeah, it seemed like a pretty clear 2 rounds to 1, maybe even 3 rounds to nothing. Nothing to say. I don't even know. I don't even know what they possibly could have seen. I don't even have any words for that. Like I don't even think that's defendable. I don't even know. And the fact that it was a unanimous too, it's like, are we missing something? Like, I don't know. I just don't get it. I that was one where I was like, I don't understand. I actually don't get it. And I think they said it better during the broadcast too, where they were like, oh, like Demopoulos thought she won, and then Felder looked and he was just like, no, nah, she's not gonna win. And then yeah, the result gets read, and everybody is like, What? Even Demopoulos was kind of like, whoa, that was me. I won. It's like, okay, yeah, okay. There goes the bet. But it wasn't going to be that great if we would have gotten it, but it definitely hurt us a little bit. It was at minus 163 what I had. That was Murata decision. She was a huge favorite, so it was kind of like we got to lower this somehow. Knew she wasn't going to get a finish. Went Murata decision. Thought I cashed it in, and we didn't. So that was another bad one. Minus 163 does not get cashed in. Absolute robbery there. That would not have gotten us into the green, but it would have cut the losses almost in half, actually. I think that actually would have cut it in half. So that kind of sucks. Um, yeah, that really sucks, actually. Yeah, brutal. Brutal, brutal, brutal. But that was really the theme of the night. It does look good today. I think it's the lighting. I think it's because it's a lot brighter in here today for some reason. It's really sunny. So the sun's coming in, lighting up the screen. See, because you can tell by my hand now. See how bright that is? And then it's darker where I'm sitting. That's why I think, because normally it's like the clouds are kind of blocking it, so the light doesn't come in, and then there's not a huge amount of lighting difference between the screen and me. Yeah. But thank you for noticing. I noticed it too. I was like, damn, that's actually looking pretty sharp. I wish it was like this all the time. But that's just kind of where I am. If I was actually in my old place, like where I was living by myself, I had a light that was pointing at it, so it did look pretty good. But now, I mean, there's really no way in here for me where I am right now to set it up like that. So I kind of just have to deal with what nature gives me. And today she is providing. Moving on, Nate Manis, Mateus Mendonce. And what did I say about this one? I even said it. I was like, I don't trust this matchup because Manis lost in a decision to Umar Nurmagomedov. Because if that doesn't sound impressive right away, I don't think you know anything about fighting if you don't think that's impressive. And then, crazy loss to Ulanbekov, and that was fair. I mean, he was going down in weight for the first time. Ulanbekov's pretty good. Standing guillotine choke. He kind of got caught in it too. So that kind of made sense. But again, it's like, okay, it's 2 losses in a row, but one of them was Umar and one of them is Tagir, and Tagir's pretty good too. And Mendonce, we haven't even seen fight, really. I mean, he had the one fight on the Contender Series, and that was it, I think, right? Oh no, he had the decision against Basharat, and Basharat never looked like he was having a problem at all. But I mean, that is just how good Basharat is too. But, seemed like 50-50, and it wasn't even 50-50. It was definitely way in favor of Manis as soon as they got in there. So I am very glad that I decided to go with that in there, and that I learn from the mistakes of picking Contender Series guys that have not been proven yet. Yeah, I've done that quite a few times this year. I'm glad that I moved past it, realized the mistake, and now we're capitalizing on it, because that was the perfect time to get that. And by the way, for anybody that didn't know, that was the underdog, the top dog, underdog of the week there. So of course, I put the money on that. That was plus 200. That was the one on Instagram, which is why we actually made money on the night, because Manus saved us. Actually, that was one of the reasons. So we put 1 unit down, 2 units back, plus 200. That's 3 units for that. And then I also put the under 1.5, because I was like, you know what? They've both had fights end in the first round. We don't know what Mendonça is going to be like. And maybe Mendonça just runs through Manus. That could have happened too. So I thought under 1.5 was a steal. That was a plus 130. Plus 130. So we cashed in both of those. So yeah, we put down 2 units, got 5.3 units back. So 3.3 units up on that matchup alone. Amazing. And by the way, that would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We would have actually been. Oh, never mind. I was gonna say we actually were up on the card at that point, but we were not, because that was the first matchup out of 4 that we cashed in on. So no, we were not up at that point. But that really did bring it back in to the point where it was like, okay, we could break even tonight. I think we can do it. I just thought we were going to be cashing in on the parlays, but my God, did that got crushed pretty quickly. I mean, Montana, that fucked up the parlays too, but Dawson, I mean, that loss that was what ended the parlays. Anyway, rambling, moving on. Kovalevich, I believe, was next, right? Let's see here. Let's see. Yes, Kovalevich, Diana Belbita. Absolutely no surprise there. I said that right away. We knew that was going to be fairly one-sided in terms of Kovalevich. You know, again, I'm a huge fan of Belbita. Love Belbita. Hopefully I get to meet her someday. That would be amazing. But not a good style matchup for her in this case. Just didn't look great. And that was what happened as well. Let's see here. It was, now I need to find my notes here. Very close the whole fight. Oh, it was pretty close. That's right. Okay. Very similar with the striking. Belbita a bit ahead on the feet, with some pace and accuracy, winning the first 2. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's right. This was actually another one where the judges' cards actually kind of were a little curious. I'm not going to lie. That's right. Yeah, I actually kind of thought she won the first 2 rounds, now that I'm getting into it. So I take back everything that I just said. Clearly it was closer than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, Kovalevich struggled to get a takedown. I thought that was surprising, because Belbita was taken down pretty easily in the last couple, well, actually pretty much all of her fights, and Kovalevich usually gets takedowns. So that was pretty surprising, actually. Yeah, but I think it was the damage. I think the damage is definitely what ended up winning Kovalevich the fight. I will say though, 30-27. That that did not seem right. 30-27 for Kovalevich. I thought that was a bit shocking when I heard that. I was like, really? None of the rounds? None of the rounds for Belbita? I don't know about that. Yeah, just all straight up all throughout the card, there were a lot of judges cards where I was listening to the numbers and I was like, man, I'm glad this is not a split, or else people would be losing their fucking minds right now, because these cards are questionable at best. And I mean, that Demopoulos one was definitely took the cake, but this one was, the numbers were more questionable than anything else. And then I should have also said what happened with Mendonce. 0 fight IQ. Absolutely, that might have been some of the worst fight IQ I've ever seen. went only for heel hooks and leg locks. And what did I say about Munoz doing the same goddamn thing? We saw basically, excuse me, we basically saw three specialist performances in a row. That was also the reason why it sucked so much. Because it was like, okay, so we're watching Munoz be a specialist on the ground. That didn't work because that was awful. So that didn't work. And then Demopoulos tries the exact same thing. Doesn't work there. Somehow gets away with it though. And then we had Mendonce doing the same fucking thing. 3 fights in a row. We had that same bullshit strategy. And I just don't understand the logic behind it. We've seen it over and over and over again. And every time it seems like everybody sees it coming too now. Like I see it coming now every single time. I missed that Claudio Puelles Dan Hooker one, I will admit. But I mean, again, that's another one. It's like every single time somebody tries to do that, it doesn't work out. So why do they keep doing it? Why? Why? And I don't Demopoulos should be, I don't know, like thanking the MMA gods or something because she got away with it, but not a good strategy. It blows my mind that people still do that. It's crazy to me. Crazy. Especially when Mendonca's good. Like he's got talent. He's got a good team. I don't understand why somebody like that would ever try and fight like that against somebody like Manis. That was idiotic. Idiotic. And then of course, what does he do? Gets smoked by ground and pound because he's going for heel hooks. Like, the fuck are you doing? Anyway, zero fight IQ. So I needed to say that too. But yeah, for the bets, Kovalkiewicz, there was only the one bet. Kovalkiewicz decision all the way. We cashed that in plus 110. So we got a little bit back there. That was 2.1 units back, of course. So that brings us to, let's see, 7.4. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we were 0.6 down, 0.6 units down, about halfway through the card. I felt decent about it. Of course, we also found out, I think it was either at the start of the card or about a couple of fights in, that Kutelaba, I actually don't know who pulled out of that. It was Linz. That's right. Linz was the one who pulled out of the fight against Kutelaba, which they actually said was not the first time that Linz has pulled out on fight day. So a little bit suspect when you see the same person pull out on fight day, not just fight week, but on fight day multiple times. That's concerning. That's not great. That's not a good look. That's actually a really bad look. The only person who has a worse look I will get into later on this, and that is Michel Pereira. Thankfully, they're putting him at middleweight, so I fucking hope this matchup stays together. But yeah, Michel Pereira might be the worst at that. But yeah, moving on. So yeah, Kovalkiewicz decision. We're 0.6 units down halfway through the card. Then we had Bill Algeo, Alexander Hernandez. I felt pretty good about this matchup. I'm not gonna lie, and I said it last time too. Algeo Hernandez. I just think, I don't know, Hernandez. He's good. He used to look a lot better. But if you're struggling against the lower tiered guys, and now he's going at featherweight, he's never really had great success down there. It seems like he kind of doesn't do well at 145. He seems to do better at 155. So I knew this was not going to go that well for him, and that's kind of what happened. Algeo just kind of got the decision. That's about it. But I will, of course, get into the details. I want to see what happened here. Oh yeah, right. Pretty slow from both guys. That's right. It was a very boring fight. There was really only a couple of performances really on this card that were even like, oh, that was kind of cool. I mean, holy shit. Did you see the Contender Series this week? The Contender Series blew Saturday out of the fucking water. One of the best Contender Series episodes they've ever had. season finale, unreal. If you did not see, well, actually, you don't have Fight Pass. That sucks. But if you did have Fight Pass, I was gonna say you want to watch that card again because it really was elite. I mean, like two knee KOs in a row, unreal, and some pretty good talent too. I mean, I was very impressed, very impressed by the card. Oh, you didn't see it. Oh, you missed out. You definitely missed out this time. It was one of the best Contender Series ones for sure. And yes, I also like Michel Pereira a lot. Love the personality, love the fighting style, but yeah, come on. I mean, missing weight by like, what was it, 8 pounds or 7 pounds against Wonder Boy? Get the fuck out of here. Don't do that. And you knew what he was doing. You knew exactly what he was doing. He just assumes Wonder Boy's a nice guy, so he's going to take the fight anyway, so weight doesn't matter. I'll just come in there way overweight against Wonder Boy and use that weight to win. You know that's for a fact what he was doing. That's honestly just fucked up to do. That's some dirty shit right there. And you know that's exactly what he was doing. You can't, I mean, how is it not what he was doing? You know what I mean? Like, how is that not what he was doing? I would be blown away if that was not his strategy. But yeah. How much is Fight Pass though? I pay for it for the year. So for the year, I believe it's like 129, something like that. Something like that. Which sounds like a lot, but when you actually do the math of it, it ends up being cheaper than something like Netflix. But of course, I realize it is pretty limited. It's like, unless you're going to be watching, Contender Series, Ultimate Fighter, doing research, maybe watching, BFL, Unified, LFA, some of the cards on there, maybe even some ADCC, some jujitsu, something like that. Like I understand why people don't necessarily do it because that's an intimidating price, but I just think that what you get out of it is so much better. Plus, I will say, I much prefer, and I really do mean this, like 100% much prefer watching things on Fight Pass than TSN. It is so different. It is so much better. There's no commercials, so you don't have to deal with the commercials in between rounds. You don't have to deal with it before the fights, missing the walkouts, missing what they're saying about the fighters, missing even some of the video packages. You miss a lot of the video packages actually when you're watching it on TV. So you actually do get quite a bit more out of getting Fight Pass out of the events as well. Plus you will never miss a fight, of course. Yeah. So I mean, being as much of a fan as I am, it's totally justified for me. But I understand that is a steep price tag. Again, it is just yearly. I think you can do it monthly. I'm not 100% sure on that, to be honest. I think you might actually have to buy the year. I can't remember. That would seem weird though. Don't quote me on that. That's probably wrong. Um, but yeah. Oh no, you bought the Canva year-long subscription. Oh, that's brutal. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. I've done that. I haven't done that with a year subscription, but I have paid for a monthly subscription by accident before on a couple of things. That sucks. That sucks. That I would really suck with a year-long subscription though. Anyway, yeah, I totally understand that. Oh, that's good. I mean, that's great though. Yeah, I mean, if you paid for it, you sure as shit better use it now. you better you better get in there and use it as much as you can because you paid for it. And that's kind of what I think about Fight Pass too, is it's like, I don't even do the bonuses for BFL or Unified anymore, but I still watch it because I have Fight Pass. I want to support the Canadian MMA, so I'll watch it. That's my philosophy on that too, is it's kind of like I have it, I'll watch it. And sometimes, if I make some bets with like LFA or something else, I might tune in, watch a fight or two just to see like, oh, how did that fight actually turn out, with the bets and everything. It's kind of nice to see that. Or, because there was actually a couple months ago, like Kyle Dawkins was on CFFC. I didn't watch it, but I mean, that would be something like, oh, okay, I might watch Kyle Dawkins. Like, that's kind of something I'd be interested in. People like that, people that you see in the UFC end up going outside the UFC and they're on Fight Pass still. It's, it's there. But it really helps with the research, though. That's really the main thing for sure. Because I just watch each person's last fight or two, and there you go. And you can watch some of the best fights again, that's might be one of the best parts as well. But yeah, we're really dragging behind here. Let's keep it going here. And I mean, it gets pretty easy from here, though, I will say. I mean, Dober, what did I fucking say? There was no chance Glenn was going to be able to withstand that. I said that right away. Dober in 1. That was the bet. That was the only bet I made in that fight. Dober round 1. Nailed that right away. Plus 150. Give me my money. Like that's how easy that one was. Oh, I forgot to mention the bets for the Algio one. But yeah, that was the only Dober one. Super easy. Never in question. Shouldn't have even happened in the first place, really. I mean, they were just trying to prop Dober up. I understand. Algio Hernandez, right? Oh yeah, Algio. I had it minus 105. So it was actually he was, I guess, a slight underdog when I got him. He was he was a favorite earlier in the week, so I actually got him at a pretty good price, minus 105. That brings us back 1.95 units. Sadly, I did put the under 1.5 in, thinking, okay, we've got a good chance at getting a really early finish here. That did not happen. But oh, I thought you said something different. I was reading back in the chat here. Yeah, so it ended up being a super slow fight. So obviously the under 1.5 did not cash in, which means that we basically just broke even on that fight. 0.05 units down. That's basically breaking even. So then we had the Dober one, which plus 150. So we get back 1.5 units on top of the one we put in. So there was some profit there. So we were definitely, like I said, we were actually doing pretty well. Even though it felt like I was losing a lot, and maybe it was because my Tapology picks did so bad that it felt like I was losing really bad. But at this point, it actually really was not all that bad. But that's when it kind of switched, because then it went like off the rails for us. It was like really bad after that. Because then we had Morono and Buckley. Just kind of unlucky there, honestly. That's that's really what happened. We just got super unlucky with that. I went Buckley KO. I mean, could I have been more unlucky with that? I mean, if you actually look at what he said after, because he talked about it after, he said he was going for a KO and that, oh yeah, no, actually, was it Buckley or somebody else? I think it was Buckley. He said he was going for a KO and then switched up to do a submission because of where it ended up. But yeah. Yeah, I did lose more time than units. Yes, I did. It was actually kind of annoying because it was like, oh, now I'm going upstairs. Like normally after I'm going upstairs after a UFC card, I'm like, oh, that was great. What a great night of fights to watch. That was entertaining. I loved it. And let's start working on stuff to this weekend though. It was like, well, that sucked. I hope Bellator 300 is better. That was really my only reaction. I was like, that was not entertaining to watch. I really hope that Bellator 300 is going to be slightly entertaining to save this night. That's what I was thinking. And it kind of did. It did help because Cyborg, always a good time. And then Nurmagomedov, it wasn't the most exciting, but he dominated and it was kind of fun to watch. Yeah. Brutal to watch the UFC this week. Anyway, so yeah, Buckley KO. That's super unlucky. Ends up going, oh, that's right. He got a decision out of it. Didn't get the KO. Little surprised. He had quite a few chances to get it. Um, so I must have been thinking of a Contender Series fight. I think that's what I was thinking of because he actually said yeah, that was actually what it was. He said he was going for a KO. I bet on a KO, and then the guy turns his back, so he jumps on his back, goes for the rear naked choke. What the fuck? Brutal. So I lost that bet too. I did not do well in the Contender. Nope. Honestly, it's pretty hard to do well with the Contender Series. It is one of the hardest. I would say it is the hardest promotion to bet out of all of them by far. I don't even think it's close. But yeah, he definitely should have gotten that KO. That was rough. That was rough. Yeah, dominated a whole lot of it. Buckley landed better shots more often. He definitely is the real deal, by the way. He is dangerous at welterweight. I definitely think he will be top 10 pretty quickly because Morono, I thought, was kind of top 15-ish level, like between 10 and 15. So the fact that Buckley really did make it look as easy as I thought he would, yeah, we're looking at somebody who's going to be in the top 10 for sure. There's no doubt about it. I really think Buckley is the real deal. Moving on. So yeah, oh yeah, which means that we went 0-2 again because that was the under 1.5 I had because I thought, okay, Buckley's going to smoke Morono. I really thought that. And that's why I also bet on the KO because I thought, oh, he's going to get the KO. And even if he didn't, I thought he was going to get a submission or something. I thought he was going to do something to get a finish that early. Anyway, didn't happen. So we went 0 for 2. Maybe I went a little bit over the edge there. Maybe I should have just gone Buckley KO or Buckley finish or something. So maybe I shouldn't have done 2 bets there. I don't know. Debatable. So yeah, 0 for 2. That was brutal because he definitely had the chance at the KO. I think we all know that. And then we moved on to Pfeiffer, Joe Pfeiffer, the sniper pick, and never a doubt. That's why I picked him. There was no doubt he was winning that fight. I mean, come on. And I will say though, I mean, I had Pfeiffer KO. Oh, that's where that's where we got screwed with the finish. Pfeiffer. Yeah, because Pfeiffer had a chance. He kind of had a chance of getting a KO. Well, I mean, we got screwed on both of those because Buckley could have easily gotten the finish as well. But Pfeiffer had an easy chance of getting a KO as well, and he also went for he went for the submission. That's where that's where it didn't work out for us. Yeah, the fight ends 30 seconds before the over 1.5 cashes in. I went with the over because I knew how tough Al Hassan was. And I was right about that. I mean, he was very tough, but 30 seconds earlier, we would have cashed that in. Sadly, the over 1.5 did not cash in, and Pfeiffer goes for a sub. So instead of the KO, so we went over 2 just because of that. Horrible luck. Horrible luck. I don't think I could have gotten unluckier in that matchup. I really don't think I could have. So yeah, brutal way to end that. But of course, he was the sniper pick, minus 400, put 4 units down on that. So of course, we did get that back. But the fact that he didn't get the KO and missed the over 1.5 by 30 seconds, that was kind of just the theme of the night right there. Just brutal luck. Then moving on to the main event. Nothing really to say other than holy shit, I did not see that one coming. I really did not. I mean, we've seen Dawson go against guys like that. I mean, maybe not to the level of Bobby Green before, but I mean, actually, I don't even know if I can say that because what's his name? The guy that Dawson beat just before this, Damir Ismagulov. I mean, Ismagulov is a much cleaner striker and technical striker and way better grappling defense than Bobby Green. So it was kind of like, I'm still shocked. I'm still blown away by the fact that Bobby Green was somehow able to do that out of nowhere against somebody who had not lost in the UFC and was, what was his record again? It was like 60, what is it, 16-1? Let me see here. 19-1, 20-2, 20-1. Sorry, he was going into this 20-1, and he gets knocked out in 30 seconds out of nowhere. I'm still shocked. I really am. I did not see that one coming. Never would have put money on that. I thought Dawson was the lock. The only reason I did not have him as a sniper pick is because I was a little bit worried about the green power, but I was also thinking Pfeiffer is the obvious number one choice here. But I did have Dawson in my B slot, which means he was in a lot of the parlays. So that was not good for us. That was not good for us at all. And now we will get into those parlays. Actually, no. I'll quickly say the bets that we made, of course, for that main event. That was Dawson decision because, okay, that was at plus 300. So I liked that. I felt pretty good about that one. And then I balanced it out with the under 2.5. So, by the way, didn't necessarily lose a whole lot of money by that happening, except for in the parlays, because the under 2.5 cashed in, and that was good for us. That was at minus 105, 1.95 units back. So we basically broke even on that matchup, except, of course, if you include the parlays. So it wasn't that bad. It was not that bad that happened. It was more so just shocking. Shocking is really the only word for that. Yeah. Then we go to the parlays, the triple play ABC. That would have been Pfeiffer, Dober, and Dawson. That, of course, does not cash in because of Dawson. So that was actually the only. Yeah, that was the only bet that we put on Instagram that we did not cash in, because we cashed in on the top dog. That was Nate Manis. We cashed in on the sniper pick, Joe Pfeiffer. And we cashed in on the 4-leg parlay, the Grand Slam itself, which was ACDE. That was Joe Pfeiffer, Drew Dober, Joaquin Buckley, and Iwan Kutelaba, which technically was a push. So it was really actually a 3-leg parlay in this case, but it cashed in nonetheless. So we will take the win there. And that was at originally plus 309. I don't know what the odds worked out to be because they don't really tell you that. But I do know that the profit for 0.5 units ended up being 1.22 total. So it was 0.72 units of profit from the Grand Slam. So 3 out of the 4 bets on Instagram we got in looked good. That was good. And I don't know how this keeps happening. I really have cashed in more of the Grand Slams, the 4 legs, than the triple plays, than the 3 legs, which is bizarre. That is really weird that I've cashed in more 4 legs than 3 legs. Would you be able to text me the picks for every week on Instagram like you do with the rest of the parlay? Text the picks for every week. Yeah, I could do that. I mean, I kind of was doing that a little bit. What, like when you sent me the your full layout and everything of the card, I would then tell you. That's where I was telling you, like, oh, I picked the other person instead. But I guess, yeah, we could skip that step and just I could just tell you my picks. Yes, I could definitely do that for sure. I won't give you the exact picks because, I want my little advantage on Tapology. I'm not going to give you all my secrets, but yes, I will give you the picks so that you can do the card, the full layout of the card, of course. I won't text it though. I'll just take a picture of it. That's easier. Anyway, what was I going to say here? Yes, parlays, just in case I don't want to watch. Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. All good, all good. What was I going to say here? Oh yeah. So in terms of profit, what happened? There was no profit, obviously. we got really unlucky. I don't know if you followed how many times I said that was very unlucky. It was a lot. I mean, the Demopoulos loss, Buckley not getting a KO, Pfeiffer not getting a KO, goes for the sub instead, missing the over 1.5 by less than 30 seconds. I mean, holy shit, could we have gotten any more unlucky? What else did we miss? I think there was even another one that was like, wow, we really, oh yeah, then of course, yeah, the Murata decision. That's criminal. That was a criminal level robbery on that one. Yeah, so we got some brutal luck this week. Not a good week. Minus 2.2 for the upper half. That's the single bets and the prop bets. So those are just like the matchup bets that what I just went through. That was minus 2.2. So really nothing all that bad. And I mean, again, we got super unlucky with that. So I feel okay about that. And then the parlays were minus 1.78 with Dawson losing. I don't really see any possible way I could have fixed that, really, because there's no way I could have seen that coming with Green getting a knockout like that. Never could have seen that one coming. So I don't feel bad about that at all. I think actually the letters were completely perfectly distributed. I really feel good about that. Montana De La Rosa was my F pick. She was literally the last pick on my parlays. So that's okay. When that person loses, it doesn't really kill most of the parlays. It only kills, I think, yeah, 2 out of the 5 in this case. So it's really not that big of a deal when somebody loses like that. It was just Dawson getting knocked out like that. That's really the only thing that did it. And if Kutelaba would have fought, I guarantee you he would have gotten that win. So I mean, we would have had a little bit more profit there had Kutelaba been in there, had his fight. What can you do? It was just kind of one of those weeks where nothing went our way. Nothing. Absolutely not a single thing happened to fall in our laps here this week. Nothing. So, yeah, brutal. Absolutely brutal luck for us this week. And we'll move on. We will rebuild and move on. I'm not sure if I feel better about this week, though. I'm not going to lie. This was a weirder card. This is a very strange card. There's a lot of good-looking underdogs on this card, though, so I'm hoping that a couple of them will cash in for us. Didn't have the chance to watch tape on the people on the main card, but I did get the prelims done. So I've got some good stuff for you there. I don't think we'll take a break. I think we'll just power straight through. Like we're already over an hour deep. We really got to get going with this. You haven't really looked at this card that much. That is fair, to be honest. This one is definitely better than last week, though, I will say. Needed to power through some water there. Yeah, this card is way better looking than last week. Is it a great looking card? Not necessarily, but you know, we're ramping up. We had the bottom of the barrel last week. Now we've got a middle tier card, and I still maintain the best card of the year next week. So we're ramping up. It's all good. And it opens up with, well, see, when you drink that much water, it starts to be a problem when you're trying to talk after. After that, I mean, opening up the card is Ducote and Yoder. I mean, there's only one pick for this fight, and I don't even think I really have to explain it too much. It's Ducote decision. Ducote never really has any finishes. Yoder, not good. She's also 37 years old. Like, why is this fight being... I mean, I know why it's being made, because they don't have somebody else that Yoder can have like a full fight with. Ducote's not a danger of finishing anything. Ducote's looked like garbage in her last couple of fights. I don't know why, because she was insanely good outside of the UFC. So maybe she just needs some confidence. I think this is that matchup. This is just a confidence boost for Ducote. Ducote decision all day long. I don't see any other way this is happening. So that's the obvious bet here. In terms of the actual picks here, like the actual bet here, I'll look at Betway for the odds. Where is it here? They've got a different fight order, so I'm kind of struggling to find it, and they do not have any odds for prop bets yet, I see. So I won't even bother looking at the rest of the cards for the prop bets. I'll just go with money line here, which is minus 400. That's why I'm saying the only real pick here is Ducote by decision, because there's no point bringing two bets into it. You're throwing your money out the window, I think, if you bet on an under 2.5. So I think that's the only way, real way to go. Ducote, decision. That's it. Then we've got, I actually don't know who that is. Hold on for a sec. Gutierrez. What's his first name? Is it Chris Gutierrez? Yes, Chris Gutierrez, Alatong Haley. I don't really think that matchup is even really that close at all. I mean, Chris Gutierrez, what did he just do again? He had an amazing performance, not in the last one. Oh yeah, lost to Pedro Munoz. It was a close fight, but we know how good Munoz actually is. He's slightly underrated in terms of the hype of everything. I would say very underrated in terms of that. But yeah, Chris, yeah. But he is very good. So that was an okay loss to have. And before that, knocked out Frankie Edgar. Before that, knocked out Dana Baghetti and win over Felipe Colares before that. I mean, he's really good. Really, really good. Alatong Haley is kind of actually like Aori Lang to me, where it's like he should be good, but he doesn't really perform that well ever. Um, and he kind of he didn't even really look that great in his last fight against Anheliger. And Anheliger is not even close to as good as Gutierrez. So yeah, I think the pretty obvious pick here is Gutierrez. And I will say, what was I going to say? Actually, no, I don't know what I was going to say. Yeah, with the odds here being, where are we? See, again, they're fucking me up on this website. Minus 400 for Gutierrez. You got to bring those odds down. So I'm going Gutierrez by finish. And I don't really think it would make sense to do another bet with that one. Again, we're trying to bring the units up by not just getting things right and making the right picks for bets, but also you kind of need to cut out. And I mean, I've been trying to do this lately, but been maybe picking the wrong ones here and there. This is kind of one of those ones where it's like we really need to cut out the bad bets, the bets that are like, I don't know if this is going to cash in or not. We need to cut out some of those. So I think going with Gutierrez finish on this one is the only bet we should be making, I think. And again, I guess that also depends on how the odds work out on Betway, because of course we don't really know yet, but I would imagine at minus 400, that's probably as good as we're going to get, is Gutierrez finish. I think that's the way to go with it. So yeah, like I said, this is a tough card. This is a very tough card to bet because there's a lot of decent sized favorites and also a couple of people that I don't think people are taking too seriously here, that they really should be. And actually, that comes up in the next one here. Irina Alexeyeva and Melissa Dixon. I was a little surprised actually to find out that Irina Alexeyeva is the underdog in this case. I'm surprised because she already has a UFC win, not just a UFC win, a first round finish against Stephanie Egger. And like we can talk all day about Stephanie Egger, she might not be as good as, as good as, she might not actually be that good, really, is what we're saying. Yeah, exactly. Just have to trim some of them if it's iffy, 100%. And I've tried to do that over the last month or so, but failing here and there. Because seems like the bet that I do cut out seems to be the one that always cashes in, which is maddening. So hopefully we can turn that around. But yeah, Arena Alexeyeva. I don't know if you remember, but this was the Russian Ronda. Russian Ronda. She goes in there, gets an armbar over Stephanie Egger in the first round a couple months ago. That's her. Going against Melissa Dixon. She doesn't have a UFC fight, doesn't have a Contender Series fight. Is just coming out of, was it Aries? Let me see here. Yeah, Aries FC. I watched it. I will admit, I was very impressed by the other fighter that was fighting Melissa Dixon because she looked insanely good. But Melissa Dixon did win that fight. She was undefeated. She still is undefeated, I should say. So I see where the betting line is coming from here with her being a favorite. She's currently sitting minus 150. But like I said, Arena Alexeyeva, Russian Ronda has a first round armbar over somebody with some wins. I mean, remember, just because Stephanie Egger might not necessarily be that great, she still has wins in the UFC. I think that is important to remember. So, with all that in mind, I think I have to go the underdog. You have to put a little bit of money on Arena Alexeyeva just because of the circumstances. I mean, like I said, she has a win in the UFC. She's big, by the way. She has an insanely good ground game. Melissa Dixon isn't really great on the feet. She also goes for the ground, but mostly ground and pound. So I don't even know if Dixon can kind of handle even somebody like that from the bottom, because she could easily get an armbar from the bottom, anything from the bottom. Russian Ronda there. And I mean, the name says it all, Russian Ronda. She fights like that too. I mean, she can scrap. And she's kind of a lunatic on the feet. She'll just stand and bang too. And Dixon did not do well with that. She is not a striker at all. Because that's what I was saying about the person she was going against is Melissa Dixon's opponent in her last fight was a striker, and she was like 6 inches taller than her too. I mean, she was lighting Dixon up. I mean, it was crazy to watch. So if Irina can do that too, Alexeyeva, land some bombs here and there, and even if she doesn't, maybe gets that sub on the ground, she's definitely a live dog. Possibly the top dog of the week. Possibly. We'll see. Haven't decided on that, but she might be. So I'm going the underdog. I think you have to when it's that close. And again, Melissa Dixon making her debut hasn't been proven yet. So we don't know. So why not go for the underdog? Plus 120. I love where that's at. And because usually those are decisions, I would imagine that. Ooh, actually, I don't know. I actually wrote down here over 1.5, just because I think I'm kind of assuming that they're probably going to do under 2.5 is minus money here. We'll see. I mean, again, that has everything to do with the prop bets. So I guess that'll be something we see when the odds come out, whether I take the over 1.5, the under 1.5, under 2.5. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the odds, but definitely taking Arena Alexeyeva. Because we don't know. We don't know. Then we have the man himself, T-Rex, Terrence McKinney, the man, the myth, the legend, the wrecking ball. I mean, he's not going to lose this. I mean, come on now. He's going against a man named Brendan Marat. Who the fuck is that? We have no idea. You go into the history here. I mean, he's got 2 finishes in a row, but the last guy is Lionel Young, who has quite the record, let's say, at 11-20. So not the most impressive last win. That was at Combat Zone 81. And then before that, Dion Rubio, also in Combat Zone. Before that, didn't fight for 3 straight years and won a split decision against somebody who was 8-4 before that. So I don't know if you can tell here, but McKinney should be a decent sized favorite, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be the sniper pick because if McKinney loses this fight, he should never be in the UFC ever again. You cannot fight. You cannot lose to a guy like this, especially when everybody thought you were going to be like top 15 nuking guys. Like, there's no fucking way he's going to lose this. And by the way, not only does he have a weird history for somebody in the UFC, because that is a very strange way to get in the UFC, by the way. If you haven't noticed, based on the people who have been coming through the Contender Series and everything like that, beating somebody that, what did I say, was like 10-20, that's not how you get in the UFC. And then, like I said, 3-year layoff before that, split decision win before that. You've got all of that, but he was also fighting at featherweight before. McKinney is a fucking massive, massive 155er. And you're telling me he's going against this other guy who used to fight at featherweight, recently fought at featherweight, I should say, too. I mean, are you trying to kill this other guy? Like, I really don't think, like, there's no way. There's no way. So, yeah, we're going all in Terrence McKinney. Minus 450 right now. I mean, should we put 9 units down just to double up? I think so. I probably will do that. I'm not going to lie, because like I just cannot envision a scenario where McKinney somehow loses this. There's no way. There's no way. I refuse to believe that there's a way he loses this, especially as a fan of him too. I I might have to like block Terrence McKinney and never think about him ever again if he loses this fight. And loses me a sniper pick like this. There's no way. So yeah, I have to go with him. 9 units minus 450. That's what we're doing. I'm actually gonna write that down right now because there's no way I'm not doing that. By the way, the fact that he's only at minus 450, that is criminal. How is he not a huge, like way bigger favorite? Way bigger favorite. That's crazy to me. Okay, moving on. That is that one. Oh yeah. In terms of the actual, oh yeah, that's right. I actually found something else. This is a psychology one actually, because I don't know if you noticed this, just because he's been up and down. Yeah, but he has the part that pisses me off about that is it's like, yes, technically, if you look at his record, he has been up and down. But look, watch the fights. Watch the fights. You cannot tell me he was not winning all of those fights up until out of nowhere he gets finished. Like, he was clear. He was even beating Dober. He was beating Dober. Then he gets knocked out. He was beating. He was destroying. I mean, he was winning that Sadikov fight easily. Then gets his arms trapped behind his back. Can't get the can't can't defend the submission because his arm is stuck behind his back. He was winning before that easily, and then loses out of nowhere. Same thing. I even think he was actually winning. Wasn't he not winning the that fight in Brazil before that flying knee knockout as well? It was a closer one. I think he might have been maybe losing that before, but still, it was at least very, very close before that. And he was doing really well, and then out of nowhere gets knocked out. So it's like he's clearly insanely good. It's just super unlucky. And then like a bit of a lack of focus in there too, I'm sure. Especially in that Bonfim fight, that one I was talking about in Brazil. Yeah. But anyway, what was I saying here? There was something I was going to mention that was relevant. Oh yeah, psychology related thing here. I noticed something that McKinney was doing in the last 2 fights. You can go, oh, actually, if you had Fight Pass, you could go back and watch what I'm saying here. Right away, immediately in those last 2 fights. I think it was Mike Breeden was the last one. Was it? Let me check this out because I want to get this right as to who he was fighting in the last one. I think it was Mike Breeden, though. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So in the last fight with Mike Breeden and in the fight before that with Nazim Sadikov, he actually did not start with the striking, even though he ended up knocking out Mike Breeden pretty easily. That's not what he was trying to do. He actually fully went in for the grappling right away, and he did that with both of them, Sadikov and Breeden. I understood Sadikov because I thought, okay, he's just trying to grapple Sadikov, stay away from the hands. But then he did it to Breeden too, and that's what convinced me he's actually just trying to get a submission here. He wants to prove that he can also get a submission. He did have a submission against Ziam, so he has proven it. But I think now, oh yeah, he also got the standing sub against Gonzalez too. But I think people seem to be still kind of sleeping on his submission skills, and I think it seems to be bugging him quite a bit because now every single time, like I said, he goes in there, and I think it's also because people are looking at those hands. They don't want to get knocked out, so they ignore the fact that he is very good at submitting people as well. So I actually think he's going to go for a submission this time. I really think he's going to get the sub this time. I will freely admit, I'm not as confident about this as I was with the Bo Nickel KO and the Raul Rosas Jr. KO. But I gotta say, I think we might be onto something here with a submission from McKinney in this fight. I think we're onto something. Submissions are a little bit harder because with knockouts, it's like they can just go in there and buzz through somebody. Submissions are harder. You have to, you set them up. You got to get them down to the ground, probably, unless it's a standing sub. So it's a little bit harder to call, but I see him trying it. He tried to do it with Sadikov. He tried to do it with Breeden. I really think he's going to try it a third time here. He's going to try and grapple Brandon Marat here. And I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to stop it. I would be shocked if Marat was able to stop it. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to see here. So I'm putting my money on McKinney by submission because I know McKinney KO is going to be inflated out of control. That's going to be minus 200, minus 300 by the end of the week. We'll go for the sub. Hopefully, logically, even like I said, just explained it. I think that's actually the better way to go with it anyway. But I do think that the odds will then be plus money. I think we will actually get a McKinney line at plus money and hopefully actually cash it in. I hope. I think that's really the way to go with this. McKinney sub. Let's go. And then I also put down, and I'm not sure, I might change this, but I also put down round 2. I might change it, but I put down round 2 and I'll tell you why. Because whenever McKinney tries to grapple like this, he usually actually does. I think this has happened to him 2 or 3 times now. Yeah. Yeah, this has happened a couple of times. It happened with Bonfim, happened with Sadikov. Um, Almost happened with Dober. He ends up bringing it long because of the grappling. He takes longer in his fights, and the fights end up in the second round. And we've seen that twice now, where if he doesn't get if he doesn't win in the first round, he loses in the second, or he gets a win in the second. Like it's like it'll end in the second round. So that's why I'm thinking maybe round 2 will be at plus money, so we get that in there. And Trent Jr. has a question. I did see that. I just wanted to finish my point there. Islam versus Volk. Who you got? I mean, if you've been watching for a while, I mean, obviously I know nobody here has, but I went with Volk the first time. I'm going Volk the second time, especially with how this year is working out. It's not even because, yes, I thought Volk won the first time, and I think he knows now that Islam maybe isn't as strong as he thought he was, because he talked about that quite a bit actually. That Volk straight up said he waited until the later rounds to go to get his offense going because he thought Islam was kind of baiting him in. He thought he wasn't wrestling up to his full potential because he thought Islam was saving it for later. He didn't. He wasn't saving it for later. Yeah, I think you got to go with Volk too. But yeah, but that's why. That's why though, because I think Volk now realizes Islam maybe isn't as strong as everybody thinks he is, and he can handle it. And he almost got a knockout in the 5th round. I think Volk has a very, very good chance. Plus, we have to remember last time, of course, Islam was, he had months to prepare for Volk. Doesn't have that time now. Whereas we know that Volk was kind of already preparing for something like this. We know that that was a fight that he wanted. So I think on all sides of it, I think Volk has the advantage here. I really do. Plus, of course, I had another point. Nah, I had another point. I forgot it. But yeah, I think all around you got to go with Volk. He's going to be the underdog too. You got to go plus money on that. I mean, there's no reason to be betting on an Islam betting line that's probably going to be like minus 250, minus 300. Like, why would you do that? I don't know. Even if you threw it in some parlays, I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. I just think Volk really does have all the advantages in this scenario. Oh, yeah. Now I remember my point. We've seen it so many times this year. No year other than that. Like, this is the only year I've ever seen where it's consistently happening. Shevchenko lost. Izzy lost. Who else? Islam almost lost to Volk. And there were a couple other ones too. Oh, I mean, you could even just say that Dawson losing to Green like that was a shock. I mean, we've seen it time and time again this year, but even especially with the champions, these super elite champions seem to get caught, maybe not even taking it seriously as they should, and then they lose. I would not be surprised if that happened here as well. So thank you for the question. That's what I will be saying again next week. That's a little preview, I guess. We'll be talking more about that card next week, obviously. But we'll get back to this card. Back to this card now, which we were at McKinney. Obvious choice. Again, McKinney sub. And round 2. I actually do think that the round 2 one, we could get that. Although I will say this guy is not that good, so maybe I might scrap that bet. He's not really that good at all. At least we think he's not. I saw the tape of one of the Combat Zones fight. Still not impressed at all. So maybe he won't last to the second round. So again, I might scrap that bet. We will see. I'm on the fence about that one, but thought I'd let you guys know what I was thinking about that one. Moving on, Lisboa and Oliveira. This one to me is actually very interesting, the betting line. Obviously, it's not a matchup that everybody's talking about because I guarantee you 90% of the people watching this card probably don't even know who either one of these people are. But I noticed a couple of things, especially with the odds, where I was like, this is very strange betting odds here. What was I going to get into? Oh, yeah. So Lisboa, only UFC fight was Jessica Rose Clark. And we kind of just talked about Jessica Rose Clark and how she's probably not the best barometer. Actually, she's a great barometer because if you can finish her, then you're probably, you deserve to be in the UFC. If you're losing and you take too long, you probably don't belong because she doesn't really fully belong either, even though I'm a fan. Again, I have to say that. I am a fan of Jessica Rose Clark, but, is she UFC level? Questionable. And that is Lisboa's only win in the UFC. Took until the 3rd round, and it was the 4:20 of the 3rd round. So took a very long time to win that fight. Wasn't super impressed by what I saw either. I don't know how you could be when you're fighting Jessica Rose Clark and took that long. On the other side of it, Ravina Oliveira has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight finishes in a row leading up to this fight. Ground and pound, punches, submissions, KOs. She's got everything. She's got every kind of finish here you could want, submission, ground and pound, and KO. I think those are kind of the three ways of getting a finish in my mind. So she's clearly very well rounded. I saw the tape. I'm not going to say I was overly impressed, but I was impressed to the point where it's like she clearly has a chance to win this fight. She clearly has a chance to win this fight. And again, this is the same thing that we just saw with Mendonce. We have not seen Lisboa fight anybody, like fight somebody of that level. And we also haven't even seen this other person yet either. So I don't know how you could really make a snap judgment on this one, which is why I was a little surprised to see that the odds were so in favor of Lisboa here. Minus 334. Like, I get it. You got one UFC win, but it's Jessica Rose Clark. And that's it. And the other person has what did I say, 7 or 6? Well, we'll just say 6. A 6-fight finishing streak compared to somebody, I don't know. Like, I think it's pretty even. And even when I was watching the tape, I think it's pretty even too. So I got to go the underdog at that price. At that price, plus 250. Plus 250 for this. You gotta sprinkle a little bit of money on Ravina Oliveira there. I don't know how they can justify minus 334 for Lisboa when she's only had, like I said, one UFC fight against Jessica Rose Clark, and the other one has a 7-fight finishing streak. I don't know. I don't know how you can justify that. So I have to take that price. Even if Lisboa does dominate a decision or something, you got to at least take a chance when you see a betting line like that. Moving on from there. Oh yeah, right. And I would take the under 2.5 in that as well, because there's a lot of finishes peppered in there. So if you were ever going to put under 2.5 or under 1.5 for a women's fight, especially on this card, this would be the matchup to do it in. Oh man, we gotta move on. We're really slowing down here. I'm petering out. Maybe I need some water to get some more energy here. Next fight. This is where I stopped. I will say this is where I stopped watching the tape on this one. So I'll be watching more tape, tonight, overnight, to get the finalized. Like, I feel really good about these. But yeah, so this is Darren Elkins and TJ Brown. I don't think this one's even close. I really don't. Haven't been impressed by Darren Elkins really at all. Lost to Jonathan Pierce in the last one. I mean, Jonathan Pierce is pretty good. Beat Connolly before that. Connolly not very good. So, then on the other side, I have actually been impressed by TJ Brown. Lost to Bill Algeo in the last fight. From what I remember it being exciting and he had a chance. Lost though. Beat Eric Silva before that. Ooh, you know what? No, I still stand by that. He really should win. The main thing I think was the age. Was it? Yeah. So I mean, Darren Elkins is 39. I mean, he also hasn't really been looking that great. So, that's never really a good sign. On the other side, TJ Brown is 33. Seems to be, maintaining. I wouldn't say he's getting like super, like way better, but he is at the level where it's like, okay, he belongs in the UFC. Elkins kind of on his way out. I think even just based on that alone, you got to be picking TJ Brown. I don't know why you would pick against him in this case. That being said, Darren Elkins, known for taking a lot of damage. That is his nickname, Darren the Damage. Darren the Damage. Elkins takes a lot of damage, doesn't get finished. I think that means really the only way to go with this is Brown decision. That'll be the only bet for that one. Brown decision. That should bring us into the plus money. And that'll be it for that. Because again, don't think we need to bet on the under 2.5. I think we're just eliminating some profit there if we were going to do that. Moving on, we got one of the best fights of the night. I'm actually really excited about this one. It is C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez, and Cameron Simon. As much as I actually kind of like both of these guys now, especially with that win over Raul Rosas from C-Rod there. I am a pretty big fan of Cameron Simon. I'm not going to lie. I really like him. He seems like a super nice guy. He's super chill. He's entertaining, great fighting style, very well rounded. Love him. He just seems like a great guy and very entertaining all around. I love him. But from what I saw of Christian Rodriguez, he really does seem like the next big thing. Like he really seems like this could be a future champion, if not somebody in the top 5. Christian Rodriguez is very, very good. And although I think Simon has that potential as well, I really do. I mean, clearly, again, I'm a huge fan and I think he's extremely talented. And he's at 9-0. I mean, you got to admit that and you got to acknowledge that as well. But he's struggled in those fights a little bit. Yes, I mean, yeah, for sure he got points deducted and that's why they were close. That's not a good sign though. If you're still getting point deductions in all of your fights, that is not good. But that aside, I think Rodriguez is just a bit farther along and he proved that. I think he proved that perfectly against Rosas Jr. because he lost that first round, but it didn't matter. Like he survived that onslaught from Raul Rosas and then just dominated the second and third round. I mean, Simon is way smarter than Rosas. He's not going to be burning himself out in the first round. But from what I saw, I just think Rodriguez is, he's up here and making his way up, and Simon is right here and also making his way up. You're kind of just, it's kind of one of those matchups actually that's kind of like, man, I wish, even though I love to see it happening right now because it's a very entertaining fight, it's kind of one of those ones that would be, would be better 5 years from now. That's kind of what I'm getting from that, is that this matchup would be insane 5 years from now. Right now, though, I think Christian Rodriguez is just that slight step ahead, and he's got the advantage. And if you look at the odds, that is supported. I believe he is a slight favorite. Yeah, minus 163 for for C-Rod there. I think that's justified. And I don't think either one of them is going to get finished. I would be pretty surprised on either side if they got finished. So I think just like the last one, I think the only way to go is probably with a Christian Rodriguez decision. I think that's a pretty obvious way to go. And no other bets. I don't think we need to throw on any other bets there. I think that's the way to go with it. But again, maybe I change my mind after watching the tape, but I don't think so because I distinctly remember both of their collections of fights here because they're both pretty new. I've been paying attention to both of them pretty carefully, so I feel pretty confident that that is going to be the pick. Rodriguez decision. The next one, I'm not going to lie, I don't really know without watching the tape which way I was. Oh, no, never mind. I'm talking about the next one. I should go back to Chairez Lacerda then. Chairez Lacerda. I mean, we actually saw this fight a couple weeks ago, or was it a month ago? When was it? It was, that was the Noche UFC. That was my birthday. So it was exactly a month ago almost. It's like 28 days or 29 days later. So I can't imagine a lot's going to change, but I will say it was a dead even fight up until then, really. A lot even closer than I thought, actually. I thought I mean, I thought Lacerda definitely had a good chance, which is why I picked him as the underdog the first time, I think. I think I did. Or did I end up choosing Chirez? Now I can't remember. I think I did pick Lacerda as the dog, just put a couple bucks on that, which is what I'm going to do this time. Truly, I will. Um, because, yeah, I mean, was Chirez going to win? I don't, I don't even know, actually. Because it ended up, okay, I'll refresh everybody's memory here. What happened was it was Chirez, Lacerda. This is where they were standing next to the cage. Chirez has the guillotine, I guess it would be, I think, locked in front of him like that. Lacerda, he's got his, his arm is pretty, well, everything is pretty loose. He's trying to get out of the submission. He's trying to survive the submission. And then we all saw it coming. I saw it coming. Cruz saw it coming. Yeah. I mean, it looked right away like the ref was going to stop it too early. And that's exactly what happened. So, I believe it was Chris Tagnoni, stopped the fight early. No contest. We get to see this fight again. I actually did watch this yesterday. So I do have some insight on this one, thankfully, but not a whole lot. I'm not going to lie, because even going into it, I was a little confused as to who to pick. Cause I mean, yeah, Lacerda's got 4 losses in a row, but he looked pretty fucking dangerous in all of them. And Chirez, I mean, he doesn't have a win in the UFC either. And he lost on the Contender Series. So he lost in the Contender Series, doesn't have a win in the UFC. Like, neither one of them has a win in the UFC. So I don't really know how you could definitively put one guy above the other, except for based on what we saw in the fight, which was that Chirez had a submission locked in. But again, you have to remember, Lacerda, by the way, was actually winning the fight before that. If you go back and watch it, he definitely was. And ended up getting caught in a sub and didn't tap, didn't go to sleep. So it's kind of like, why is Chirez going to be a huge favorite now? Like, he's minus 334 in the odds, but we never saw anything in that fight that led us to think that, except for the fact that he was stuck in a submission. But again, he was just stuck in it when he was standing up. It wasn't even like this was locked in and he was on the ground. He was standing up and it was locked in. It was like, how can you confidently say that Chirez was going to win that fight and submit him there when it's like they were standing up? He didn't even look like he was in danger of getting choked out. So I don't know how you could confidently put all your money on Chirez at minus 334. So I have to go with the underdog here. I have to go with Lacerda again because I didn't see anything in that fight to point me in the other direction. So I have to here. I have to put a little bit of money on the underdog at, where is he here? Plus 250. I didn't see a definitive winner. So plus 250. I got to do it. I got to do it. Is it a long shot? Probably. But at plus 250, I mean, it's well worth it for sure to go for the gold there. And the over under, I will say, may surprise you because it ended in the first round and most of Lacerda's fights end in the first round. I'm actually going over 1.5 because I think that was headed to be a decision. I really do. Because if you were watching it, Lacerda, for the first time ever, was taking it slow. He was not rushing in. He was not fighting hard. And he gets out of that submission. We were probably just going to be heading towards more, work on the ground, work along the fence, and the fight would be going longer. So I actually think the over 1.5, it's looking pretty good in this one. I really think we've got a chance at cashing that in. So we're taking 2 probably huge plus money bets here, but I actually feel like we've got a chance. I feel like we've got a chance at cashing this in. over 1.5, and Lacerda dog. I think we can cash in one of those, if not both. I think we're looking good. So maybe a couple of picks that people didn't see coming there, but we've got a chance. We have got a chance. Moving on after that. Oh, then we've got the one. Oh, yeah. Then we've got the one that I really don't know what to do. Michel Pereira, Andre Petrosky. Because there's definitely a huge part of me thinking, if the fight even happens, let's be real. Because Michel Pereira, I mean, we just talked about how unreliable he is. I mean, if you go, probably has the worst looking Tapology pages, one of the worst in terms of professionalism recently. 4 canceled bouts in a row now. Because he was actually supposed to fight Marc-Andre Barriault this weekend, by the way. So that's technically another canceled fight. Because we had, I'll just go through what he's done since 2022. Canceled fight Muslim Salikov. Canceled fight Andre Fialho. Ends up fighting Andre Fialho. Does win. Decision. Then fight Santiago Ponzinibbio after that. Split decision win. And then canceled fight Sean Brady. Canceled fight Wonderboy. Canceled fight Wonderboy again. By the way, that's actually 4. I have 5 canceled fights now, by the way, since 2022. And a 6th one against Marc-Andre Barriault, which, to be fair, was actually Barriault's fault. So I can't really blame that one on Pereira. But you got to admit, 6 canceled fights since early 2022, not very promising. So hopefully this fight actually happens. We shall see. In terms of a winner, I'm a little bit torn, actually, because even with Ponzinibbio, he struggled to go those 3 rounds. Now, is that because of size? Is he too big for 170 that he cannot go all 3 rounds reliably like that? Possibly. So maybe he'll look better now that he's at 185. But the size is also going to be a factor on the other side. We got to remember that. Petrosky is a very, very big middleweight. And he is a very, very aggressive grappler. We have not seen Michel Pereira deal that well with grappling. So now that actually concerns me, because I don't even know if Michel Pereira is taking this fight seriously either. So there's kind of that as well, where he doesn't take things seriously sometimes. So that worries me a lot. That worries me a lot with Pereira, which definitely he is not going to be in the main parlays. I can tell you that right now, because I do not trust him at all. I do not trust him at all. But that aside, I actually do think that Petrosky even has a good chance of winning just based on the style. Like I said, we have not seen Michel Pereira do well against a grappler yet. We haven't seen that. We've only seen him go against elite strikers. And even then, he's still kind of struggling to win sometimes. So you're going up a weight class against a big middleweight in Andre Petrosky, who grapples, submissions. I think he's got a problem. I think he's got a real problem in this one, especially if he's not taking it seriously. Because I guarantee you, there's one guy who's taking it seriously, and that's Andre Petrosky. He takes everything very seriously. So I'd be worried. I would be worried, which is why I am going with the underdog, Andre Petrosky. I have to put some money on Petrosky because I just can't trust Pereira anymore. I cannot. I can't trust him, especially in a matchup like this, especially since we haven't seen him at 185 like this. Especially not against a grappler. I don't like it. I do not like this scenario for Michel Pereira. I have to go with Andre Petrosky in this case. And that is at 140. Plus 140 for Andre Petrosky. Loving that. Love those odds. We're going for it. We're going for that one. In fact, could he be the top dog of the week? Possibly. Possibly. We shall see. There's a couple of good there are a few good underdogs on this card. So I've got some good pickings for the top dog this week. That is for sure. Then we've got the bantamweights, another pretty exciting fight, I think. Jonathan Martinez, Adrian Yanez. I want to say that I'm pretty convinced I know who's going to win this. Again, did not get to watch the tape for this one yet, but just based on historically how I've felt about both of these fighters and what I've seen from both of these fighters, and even on paper, how would you not be going with Jonathan Martinez? I mean, I don't think I even picked him to win against Nurmagomedov, and that was, I mean, he beat Saeed Nurmagomedov, he knocked out Cub Swanson, beat Vince Morales, beat Alejandro Perez, whoever that is, and Lazashvili, which we haven't really seen him in a while either. But I mean, 5 wins in a row, looked great during them. I think you got to go with Jonathan Martinez on this. And I know people love Adrian Yanez. I see why. He's entertaining. He's got a good style. But this is not the matchup for that. And I just don't think it's a good matchup. And I mean, we kind of saw that even with Rob Font, like, because Adrian Yanez, he's good. He's got the talent, but I think there's a wall. There are levels to this game, as everybody always says. There's levels to this game. And I think that Yanez is kind of always going to be kind of stuck in this kind of range. And Martinez has the potential to kind of surpass that. And I think that he has already surpassed that. It's very close, though. I mean, does Yanez have a chance? Yes, he definitely does. But I would have to imagine that Martinez is going to edge a decision here. I don't think there's going to be a finish on either side, even though both of them have a lot of finishes. I'm seeing a decision. I'm seeing a decision here, and I'm seeing it for Martinez because he's just a more well-rounded, experienced, accurate, technical striker. That's all. And I also think that he can probably grapple, and we probably haven't seen that as much. But he's probably got it in his back pocket. He seems like the kind of guy that's secretly well-rounded. Like, he doesn't necessarily use it, but when he has to, he can do it. He strikes me as that kind of guy. I will probably be thinking about Assassin's Creed. Nice. I used to play Assassin's. I actually have a stream going through the first Assassin's Creed game, and one of my friends has all of the Assassin's Creed games. Love Assassin's Creed. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think this card is much better than the last week, but of course, nothing compares to next week's card. I mean, I am buzzing about next week's card. I cannot wait. Cannot wait for that card. I do think we will do better this week too. Oh, you have all of them too. That's really cool. But anyway, so yeah, have fun. Good luck with that. I think we'll do better with the bets this week too. So I will get in touch with you with that. Of course, we're just wrapping up here pretty soon anyway. But yeah, see you next time, I guess. R&R. But yeah, we will quickly finish up the card in the next, hopefully 5-10 minutes. Well, probably more likely 10 minutes. I can hear that my food has arrived. So I'm definitely hungry and excited to get my dinner. But we will power through and finish this. But yeah, Jonathan Martinez decision. That's where I'm going with this. And I might balance it out with the under 2.5, maybe even the over 2.5. It really depends on what we see from the prop bets from Betway here. That will determine how I go about betting that second bet. But I got to go with Martinez at the very least. Either Martinez decision to bring those odds down or just straight up Martinez. It's actually dead even on the odds now, right? By the way, minus 125 for Martinez, plus 100 for Yanez. Might even just go straight up Martinez, minus 125. Just call it a night. Call it a night right there. I don't know. We'll see. Then we've got a strange co-main. Why this is the co-main, couldn't tell you. Could not tell you at all why this is the co-main, but it is. It's Jennifer Maia and Viviane Araujo. No idea why this is the co-main, but here we are. And I am about 50-50 on this one as well, because Jennifer Maia definitely getting on in age. I don't think we can deny that at 35, but she's looked pretty good. She beat Casey O'Neill. I mean, I think if we're being honest though, I don't think Casey O'Neill really looked like herself in that fight. And she's said that herself since, that she wasn't herself in that, and just it was not a good showing. I felt that as I was watching it, but you can't deny that that Maya obviously won the fight and deserved the win. So say what you want about that matchup, I guess. The only losses in her last 6 fights, I mean, because she beat Casey O'Neill, beat Marina Moroz, only lost to Manon Fiorot, Caitlin Chookagian, and Valentina Shevchenko. She won all of the other fights. So that really does tell you a lot. But I think the 35, that's something that we're kind of, we're looking at. Oh shit! But now I'm looking at Araujo and she's 36. So I guess that flies out the window and is irrelevant at this point. Um, yeah, I don't know. This is one I think I'm gonna have to watch the tape on to fully decide, because on paper, I don't know how you could reliably make a decision, because then from the other side too, we've got Araujo, who's lost to Amanda Hebos, but Amanda Hebos has been looking really good recently. And then her other loss is Alexa Grasso, and we know how good Alexa Grasso is. So this is actually, I would say, a tougher one. This is a very tough one to pick. Beat Andrea KGB Lee before that, lost to Chookagian before that. This is a tough one. That's very tough. You might have to just go with the underdog. If it's close, pick the underdog, which in this case is Araujo. So I will probably be going in that direction. We'll see. That's debatable on that one, though. That really probably will come down to what I see on the tape. So you'll have to stay tuned for that on Instagram to see what the pick is there. But yeah. Then finally, closing out the night, it is Sadiq Youssef, Edson Barboza. And I think this actually might be another one that I need to take a look at with the tape, because even again, once again on paper, this really is pretty close. And maybe I should be picking Barboza because of that, because he's the underdog and I think it's pretty close. That wouldn't be the worst choice, but I don't know. I really am on the fence about this, because Youssef, I haven't really been all that impressed by, because he seems like he should be really good and he seems to have the skill. But then when I see him fight, I'm like, he's not really doing what I expected here. I thought he would be, I thought he'd be a little bit better, especially that Caceres fight. I thought he was going to dominate the fight against Caceres, and it wasn't really what was happening. It was very close. So that kind of concerns me when he's going against somebody like Edson Barboza, because you can't really take it easy with Edson Barboza around at all. You have to be 100% on your game and aggressive pretty much the entire fight, or else Barboza won't take you seriously and he's just going to walk straight through you. But of course, that being said, Barboza hasn't really done that well recently. I mean, he beat Billy Q, knocked him out in spectacular fashion with the flying knee there. But, dominated by Bryce Mitchell. I mean, we've seen what Bryce Mitchell can do, so that makes sense with the grappling especially. And I mean, 2 years ago, fought Giga Chikadze, kind of got dominated in that one. That was 2 years ago, though. I mean, you'd imagine, too, that Barboza is probably going a little downhill because he's getting a little older now. But you can't really say that about Barboza, because he's so relentlessly dangerous and successful, no matter what like, no matter how old he is and what's going on, he always seems to be dangerous. So this is why I just don't know what to do here. What I landed on yesterday and my reasoning behind this, I'll get into, but I ended up going with Yusuf decision. That's what I kind of landed on. And I did that of um because of the 5 rounds. Because of the 5 rounds. That's what got me. I'm not convinced that Yusuf is going to be able to get a finish. And I'm not really convinced that Barboza can finish Yusuf either, which means that it should be a decision. I would imagine those would be the only 2 options. Either somebody gets a finish or it's a decision. That's how it works. So I just think that over 5 rounds, I think Yusuf has a better style and will be able to win a decision like that. That's kind of what I landed on. And then you would balance it out with the probably under 3.5, maybe under 4.5, or yeah, depending on when the odds go there. I don't know. Oh, but now I even wrote down actually here. I wrote down Barboza dog and over 4.5. Wow, that's the exact opposite of what I just said. Fuck. Man, I really am all over the place with this matchup. I don't know. I think what I just said though makes more sense, right? Yusuf decision because he's probably going to be able to beat Barboza in the long run, especially in the later rounds, and then you balance it out with the under just in case Barboza gets a wild knockout. Man, I think that's probably what I'll do. We'll see though. That's definitely one where that is all the way up in the air. I'm not entirely sure what I'll do for that. But that's it for the card. I'll say maybe a couple of parlays that I'm thinking about, but again, without figuring out the entire A, B, C, D, E, F, like where everybody lands, I can't really say the parlays. But I think I've landed on a final A, B, C, just because, which would be the triple play parlay, because there are 3 that I think should win pretty easily, and I would be kind of shocked if they lost. That would be McKinney is definitely the sniper pick. I don't know how I could go against that. I think he's got to be. In the B slot, I'm going Gutierrez. I just don't see how he loses to Alatong Haley. I would be pretty shocked. Because really, who else do you have here? That's like a very convincing favorite. There isn't really anybody. And then the third one, I think, is the only other convincing favorite, and that actually is Ducote. I was going to put Ducote at B, but Yoder hasn't fought in so long, and Ducote has been so disappointing that I'm a little scared to put her higher up and put her in the B slot. So I'm just keeping her at C. But I do think that she really should beat Ashley Yoder. I mean, really. She really should win that fight. So I think that's a pretty obvious ABC. I think that's a pretty great triple play parlay. McKinney, Gutierrez, Ducote. I think that's pretty solid. The DEF, I'm thinking. Let's see. I mean, I'm looking through. I'm thinking Christian Rodriguez would be a good one for maybe E. This really is a brutal card for parlays. I might actually even knock it down. I might knock it down from 6 to 5, like a no 6 people, just stick to 5 people or even 4 people and really bring it down. Cause yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This is not a great card for parlays. So that is kind of up in the air as well. But the triple play, I don't think I'm changing that. McKinney, Gutierrez, Ducote, I think that's a pretty good one. That's a pretty solid one. So that'll be it. Oh, and then the sniper pick, of course, being McKinney. So that is it for today. Hopefully the bets turn out a little bit better. We've been on a little bit of a slump, except for on Instagram. I mean, we are still doing okay there. 2 out of the 3 weeks, like I said, we got profit. Hopefully we can make that 3 out of 4. And then, my God, we're heading into the best card of the year. Islam Makhachev, Alexander Volkanovski 2, Chimaev, Usman, uh, uh, the new debuting people, Trevor Peak, Mohammed Mokayev, Mohammed Naimov. Uh, I mean, holy shit. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I am so excited. You have no idea how excited I am about the card next week. Cannot wait to talk about that. Hopefully, this card this week is better than it was to watch the last week. I mean, that was brutal last week. I don't know how it could get worse than that. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic as a viewer of this one. Betting wise, little nervous. We'll see. We shall see how this works out. But yeah, very excited for next week. I will see you next time. Area 51 has got you covered for all the other things. I'm the MMA guy. Instagram below, Twitter below. Be posting the main bets there. And a little bit of live tweeting in there, I'm sure, as well. Yeah, that is it. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.